Did you click this video wondering what the most valuable debt payoff tool is ever? So I'll just give you some context. So I did a live stream in 2024, and this is my most viewed live stream, 22 debt elimination, and it has about 317 views. Okay, we take a look at the analytics since upload lifetime. Oh, 312 views with 131 watch hours. And basically, we took a real life case study of someone who had 22 debts, $4 left over, and we projected that the debt would be paid off about 300,000 in about 10 years, right? Starting off with just $4.10 in the checking account. So what's amazing is that even though people will say like this is the most valuable video on the internet ever, it's just a spreadsheet. But the way that I think about it is kind of like when Picasso drew a drawing in 10 minutes. I don't know if you ever know the Picasso story. Like he literally drew a drawing in 10 minutes, and I think he was trying to charge $10,000. And the guy was like, "What? This only took you 10 minutes?" It's like, "No, no, no, no. This took me many, many years of mastery, so I can draw it in 10 minutes." And that's how I kind of think of the spreadsheet. Like it is the most valuable thing when it comes to debt payoff because it took me many years to figure out the easiest way to present debt payoff without being too sophisticated, right? And that's what we're going to do today, pay off debt. So you're looking at it, the most valuable thing ever, according, it's not my words, it's according to the YouTube viewers, the members of the live stream, only 99 cents. And this comment sticks out too. I've watched this video over 22 times. Sometimes I watched on TV and other times the phone. Yeah, it's that valuable, 22 times. All right. So let's go ahead and do it over and again because that's how we get good at our craft, right? So remember the Bruce Lee quote where he's like, "I fear the man who does one thing 10,000 times." I think we have at least over 700 videos on debt payoff, and one day we'll get to 10,000. Okay. So how is this spreadsheet valuable? Because it is your budget, and your budget is your debt attack plan, right? So we have our income, expenses, leftover checking and savings, and then under expense breakdown, we list every single debt that we have. This situation is relatively simple. Normally, I like to do like 10 credit cards because you can get really dramatic where you go from 0 to 5,000 or over 5,000 in your cash flow just by one swoop, one snap, one Thanos snap. Eliminate the inefficiencies. But we're going a little bit simple. And by the way, random side tangent note, I've been thinking, should I create like clickbait ads? I feel like a lot of YouTube is kind of like pay to play now because when I first started this channel, I was getting a healthy amount of views, and then for some reason I just don't get the views anymore, even though I have a huge watch time. Like people watch this channel a lot. It's just that I can't even pass like 100 views on a good day anymore, and it's probably because I haven't posted in a while as well. But if you want to look, if you're just curious about my watch time, 7,800 views, which is pretty good a month. 586 watch hours, and that's really good just for a spreadsheet. There were months where I used to get $300 a month, but it's all good. All right, so now, yeah, so thinking of making some clickbait, but anyways, so what we do here in the expense breakdown is we list every single debt that we have. So this is 5 debts, and then our last line item, we just kind of lump in our personal expenses. So anything that's not specifically tied to debt. So imagine if you were debt free, would you still have to pay for this? For example, food. You probably would still have to pay for food, utilities, shelter, all the things needed for survival, gas, and all that, and then we just combine them in its own line item. Some people like to be really exact, but I know that you're gonna have months where you're gonna have a flat tire, and now you're gonna have to pay for that, right? So it's very unpredictable. But things like utilities, and sometimes utilities have gotten unpredictable lately too, because heard in West Virginia, the electricity price is now more than the monthly mortgage payment, right? So things can get out of hand. But this is about debt payoff. So what we're going to do is when we do something called the velocity bank, no, we can't call it velocity banking anymore. State of Illinois doesn't like that. Velocity method to pay off debt, checking and savings will go to zero. Okay? So this is the part where we're intentional about debt payoff. This is the part where we're intentional about debt payoff, okay? And the way we become intentional is making sure that the checking and savings is zero. So the way that we think about this column versus this column is that the first column, we think of our checking and savings account as the final destination of our money. But in this column, the checking and savings account is just a place to temporarily store money, and the final destination will be something called a line of credit. Okay, that's just basically what it is. And so this is zero, but then we're going to focus on something called our cash flow. And obviously our cash flow is not 5,000 yet. Got to copy and paste the expenses. And how do we increase this cash flow? Well, what we can do is move some of the debt into a line of credit, and we're going to rank the debts to pay off using something called the cash flow index. If you don't know what it is, this was a formula popularized by Garrett Gunderson. I don't know if he created it or not because I saw another guy on YouTube saying he created it. So I'll just say Garrett popularized it. I can't even speak English. And so basically what it is the debt balance divided by the payment. And then you have your ranking system. So the lower the number, that's the debt you want to pay off. And the higher the number, okay, that's the one you want to pay off last, right? So somebody emailed me and introduced me to the pill method. So let me actually just do a quick Google search on the pill method, okay? So basically what you do is you pay your mortgage first, or that's my understanding, and then you pay the other debts later or last or something. And the reason that I kind of thought it, so the my understanding is that with the pill method, okay, because the interest of the mortgage is quote front loaded, that's why you want to tackle off the mortgage first. Now that's the exact opposite of the cash flow index. And let me know if I'm misunderstanding the pill method because again, I just have a surface level understanding. But this is complete opposite of cash flow index, right? Why? Because the interest rate is not the main factor, it's the payment, which is directly, or actually, there's three factors that affect the amortized loan, which is the original balance, interest rate, and term. So we're not focusing just on the interest rate when it comes to the payment, right? Or the cash flow index. Now, according to this pill method, you focus on that mortgage first. And the reason that kind of blows my mind is because if you focus on the low interest rate, low cash flow mortgage first, then you have to deal with these high interest payments first, if that makes sense, right? So you're instead of focusing on the high interest credit cards, the high cash flow second credit cards first, you're focusing on the mortgage first, which doesn't make sense to me unless I'm misunderstanding something, right? So all right, so let's go ahead and move these low cash flow index loans or debts into the line of credit. And so if we take a look here, right, so this is the very big and last number. The way we think about this is, hey, I literally have to give someone $250,000 to get $1,193 back in my cash flow. Whereas I could just pay these three debts, these three credit cards, and I think that's 28,000, and let's see how much cash flow I get. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste this, right? So it's $922. So pay 28 grand for 922 or pay 250 for about 1200, right? So it's all about ratios. It's all about bang for your buck. That's why we deal with the credit cards first, right? Now, in terms with the credit cards, the interest is directly correlated to the payment or the interest accrued, right? But with the loans, that's just one of three factors. So that's 28,000. So let's go ahead and move this $28,000 into the line of credit. So I'm just going to do this. So when we do that, guess what happens here? Oh my goodness, these three credit cards go to zero. And this is the dramatic shift, right? From $686.65 to $1,611.15 without making more money, right? Because you see how the income is the same? The income is the same. The expenses have just been shifted. They're not eliminated, they're just shifted, right? And with some alchemy, with some magic, possibly this $688.65 goes to 1160. I can't even pronounce the word, the numbers. $1,611.15. Now, I'm not using a whiteboard. I'm using Excel. So you can replicate this in Excel. It's just A minus B, 1 minus 2 functions, right? That's it. Okay. So $686, $88 to $1,611. How did I do that without making more money? How did I do that without making more money? I don't know. Must be a scam. Anyways, all right. So now the final step is that you put your entire paycheck into the line. Remember, we said here with the average American, the final destination of your money is your checking account. With this velocity method, the final destination of your money is your line of credit. So we put the entire 5,000. Doesn't matter if you get paid bi-weekly, weekly, monthly, whatever. I don't even think it's legal to pay someone monthly. Is it? If you're a W-2 employee, I don't know. There's a lot of rules when it comes to payroll, and I know like there was like some restaurant in New York that was a Dairy Queen that that was supposed to pay their workers weekly because of a New York law that nobody knows, and then they got fined a lot of money. In fact, let me just look at this right now. So Dairy Queen, New York, fine, paycheck, weekly, bi-weekly. Let me see if I can pull that news story up. Yeah, $6 million lawsuit for paying employees bi-weekly instead of weekly, right? So I don't think anybody knew this law, but somehow the lawyers pulled it out and made them pay 450,000. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. You might get paid weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, but according to you, New York, in certain situations, you got to pay your employees weekly. Okay, you can't. Yeah, you can't. Oh man, that's 7 months ago, I believe. It was 7 months ago. All right, so let's just keep going. So we've increased this cash flow, and so we put our entire paycheck. We take the $3,300 expenses out, and then we use it to pay these three line items, and we just rinse and repeat over and over again while we're paying the line of credit. So I'm just going to do this. So we take the previous month's balance, interest, subtract our cash flow, and then what we do is we take the interest, average it up, multiply it by the interest rate, divide by 12 because the interest rate is quoted annually, but it's calculated monthly. That's why we divide by 12. All right, so now you see that if we just do this, that in month 19, okay, month 19, it's pretty much paid off, right? So 19 months, and that is 28K of credit card debt. Okay, not bad. So a little bit after a year, 28K. And then copy paste, and then we have the auto loan and the mortgage, and then so I'm just going to do this. So it'd be 19 months, 19. So luckily we got this loan calculator right here. Okay, and this loan calculator shows us that right now, after 19 months, the current balance is 15 grand, and the total interest you've paid is only 897.44. So I think even if we're going to pay this off early, the interest would have been minimal anyways. But let's go ahead and pay it off. All right, so $800 to me is like kind of like at this stage of my life, it's kind of like I don't know, ice cream money. Even though I don't need ice cream, 15386.52. And you know what I don't really understand? Like junk food businesses like Cold Stone that are premium that are hot one day and then suddenly they're not, or Chipotle is hot one day and then it's not, or Sweet Greens is hot one. Like I don't understand like that kind of market psychology. I don't know if that's the best word for it, but I don't understand like what's in and what's out anymore. It's like why is this one thing in like one year and all of a sudden it's out? Okay, so now that we've transferred the car loan. Okay, now our cash flow is over $2,000. So what we do is now in the subsequent months, we just update this cash flow number to 2006 and 46, right? So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste, and then we see that in 27 months, auto loan gone, right? Auto loan gone, and the only thing that we have left is the mortgage, okay? So this is going to be 28 plus 22. So it's going to be 50K. Okay. And then now we have $250,000, or not actually $250,000. It's or started at 250,000, and then at month 27, right? This is $239,000 in your mortgage that's left. Okay, and we've paid 22 grand in interest. So I have a feeling right, that if we just focus on the mortgage first, like what the pill method says, then we probably pay a lot more interest on these much higher interest vehicles than here. That's just how I feel, right? I'd have to compare it, but yeah, I mean, I've done simulations, right, where you pay off the main thing that I've really tested or fully tested is the first lien HELOC, and that's the one thing like I don't know, I wouldn't recommend that, but I'd have to compare what the pill is saying and probably deep dive into it because it's certainly the opposite of the cash flow index based on my understanding. Now we have two ways to pay off the 30-year mortgage, right? So number one, option number one, extra payments. Now you might hear in the internet, oh, always using a line of credit is better than doing extra payments. I will not argue that. Like, that's not something I would argue. I would say, hey, if you can make extra payments work, then go for it, right? Because extra payments is a default option. You don't need a line of credit. You just put more money into the loan. Okay, as simple as that. But is it really? There's a reason why most people never overpay loans and credit cards, right? Because let's say put this entire $5,000 into a credit card. Well, what happens? Well, can I use credit card one to pay credit card two or the auto and the mortgage? No. There's a reason why nobody overpays most loans and credit cards, okay? Because there's a certain friction that happens to all your bank accounts where you can't easily pull money in and out. That's why, we always talk about putting money into a line of credit. Now, given that this is the very last loan, okay, is it going to be a big deal if you put the entire, whoopsie, I screwed up. Is it going to be a big deal if you put your entire $2,000 into the loan? Not necessarily. But the only issue is that most people can't do it because they know when they overpay a loan, they can't get the money back, right? And the other thing is let's say they start using like these credit cards as a backup and all that, okay? Then you're going to end up in a situation where you segregate your income. Well, what does that mean? Is that your $5,000 gets split all over the place, and that's how you ended up here instead of immediately going to here, right? So there's a philosophical component to this that I will say that, hey, if you can make the first situation work, go for it. But I will say that you can still use a line of credit, even if it's 8, 15, 30. Even at a 4% loan, you just have to know how to do it strategically. And the most important thing about this is that when it comes to debt payoff is not whether you're using a loan or a line of credit, you have to pay the loan off last or the 30-year mortgage last. Okay, very important to know, right? Because if you pay this off first or you pay it off with the line of credit, remember, in the 30-year mortgage, you get itty bitty amount of cash flow for big amount borrowed, right? I'm speaking like a caveman. I don't know why, but big amount borrowed, itty bitty payment. So when you move that big amount borrowed into from a 4% loan to an 8% line of credit, there's very little cash flow that comes from moving the loan into the line of credit, right? A lot of people don't talk about this for some reason. And so, but what's funny is that if you do something called, I'll call it the sweep, right? Moving a piece of the loan into the line of credit and doing it over and over again, that will even work with an 8% line of credit. So let me just kind of show you here. So let's say I move $5,000 of this loan, this mortgage, but whatever the current balance is, into the line of credit. So plus 5000. And then you see that the $5,000 principal of that loan got eliminated in two months, right? It got eliminated in 2 months. And so even if you're using the 8% loan or line of credit to pay off that $5,000 principal, you have to understand that interest is not just about the interest rate, it's about volume and time, right? It's about volume and time. And you can make an argument that, hey, even if it costs me a little bit more, it's much easier to execute. And I just kind of had this little diagram right here because your mindset when it comes to you paying a line of credit is that you don't have to overthink because all it is making sure two things go to zero: your checking account and your line of credit, right? And that's easy to do, right? Your checking account and your line of credit just simply go to zero, and then you just rinse and repeat that process over and over again. Now, when you do extra payments, you actually have to decide how much you're going to put into the loan. Am I going to put the full 2,000? Oh my goodness, do I need a little bit extra in my checking just in case, I need to pull out the money, right? Like, or I need to have the money at hand. Oh, should I pull the money out of the line of credit if I have an emergency? Oh, should I use a credit? Then it just becomes a mess, right? So that's why a lot of people can't do extra payments because there's no centralized system of where to put your money, and then it leads to decision fatigue. And the way that I kind of like to think about it is, I don't know if you ever heard of like middleware. Actually, let me copy and paste this middleware, right? So your line of credit is kind of like your middleware. So there are software companies out there that charge a gajillion dollars to big enterprise companies so that one system can in like maybe one website can talk to another. Like an accounting software can talk to like a CRM software, right? And they actually call this iPaaS. iPaaS. So it's like integration as a service or something like that. iPaaS, right? What does that even mean? Integration platform as a service, so that one software can talk to another, and so they have this middleware that. So think of your line of credit as that iPaaS, right? It's a centralized hub, and I'll just say iPaaS market value, or I think you would just call it TAM, total addressable market. 11 to 15 billion dollars just for one software to talk to another. Now you might say, well, why don't they just save money and just directly connect the software to each other or the websites to each other without this middleware that costs an insane amount? And that's something to think about. Now, luckily, when it comes to using a HELOC, right, this is kind of like our middleware, but it doesn't cost that much. You just saw it right here, right? Oh, 2 months and it cost me $15 here and $19 there, and I paid off 5 grand in like 2 months. Okay. Now, if you take a look here at this calculator that shows you the debt projection and the amount of interest that you're saving, you see that gets paid off in 7.4 years and 38,000. Now, here's the funny thing here, like even if you increase this amount slightly, it doesn't make a difference. Right? Like it actually goes down a little bit less according to this calculation. Now I'll tell you where you go wrong is if you move this entire loan into the line of credit, and look at that, 98,000, right? So got to be careful about moving the entire loan into the line of credit because that's a no bueno, folks. That's a no bueno. Okay, so you don't want to have to pay 98 grand when you could only pay 38 grand, right? And if you were just making the monthly payment for the rest of the life of the loan, it would have been about 157 grand. Okay. All right. Well, so that's it for today, folks. Who knows? I might crank out another video. And yeah, if you want to look more into things that people pay for, it's like, man, that's people pay a lot of money for that. Yeah, they do. But you're gonna have that middleware, aka your line of credit, where everything can cycle through, and you have no problem. You can't cycle through a loan, folks, right? You can't cycle through a loan, and people pay tons of money for this kind of software, tons of money, right? 150, 100 billion by 2030s. All right, so now this is zero. I just go here. Oh, I made $9 off that live stream. Nice. Oh, I'm a rich man now. Okay, so that's 27 months. And so how long did it take to pay off the mortgage? 7.4 years. So to be 27 divided by 12 plus 7.4, and then 9.65 years debt free. Okay. All right, so 9.65 years debt free, and that's pretty much it. So, yep. So according to people on the internet, this is the most valuable thing when it comes to debt payoff, right? A spreadsheet. Simple. And if you really want to go next level about keeping track of your finances, I have a paid membership live stream for that. There's a free program out there that I love using that's not Excel, that's more structured than Excel. So it's like spreadsheet like, but much more structured, because the way that I think of Excel is like a giant whiteboard, right? Because I can just kind of, use it like for presentations, like going from here to here. But when it comes to keeping track of my actual finances, I don't use Excel. Okay. All right. Well, that's it for today, folks. Have a great day, and I'll see you all on the next video.